Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here. So I just finished listening to the latest episode of the Inside Battlefield podcast. This week's episode was all about the state of vehicle gameplay in 2042, and they had quite a lot to say. So they started by going over some of the changes that we've already seen implemented into the game, but then they moved on to some of what will be coming in update 6.2 at the start of December, and even what they have planned beyond that. So as always, we're going to dig into all of that here in the video. But first, if you guys do enjoy the content here on the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. Follow me on Twitter, Discord, and I've also started live streaming both on Twitch and here on YouTube every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so I look forward to chatting to you a lot there. So for this episode of the podcast, Tom was interviewing Ross Darville, a design director for Battlefield 2042, but also another guy I was super excited to hear from was Eddie, who apparently has no last name, he just goes by Eddie. Now, I've spoken to Eddie several times on Twitter, giving my feedback. He's super active over there, asking what we think about the current state of vehicles and gathering feedback. And I can tell you guys that he seems like a really solid guy who actually has a general interest in improving the vehicles in Battlefield 2042, so it was really nice to actually be able to put a voice to the name and hear what he had to say. So they began the podcast by going over all of the vehicle changes that have already been implemented into the game. The attack helicopter had a really big overhaul. They gave it a new 30mm cannon for the gunner seat. They improved the views, the tow missiles, and the movement. Most recently, of course, we've seen big changes to the railgun tank by adding some new canister shotgun weapons, helping to push it into a more aggressive role, which has honestly been a lot of fun to try. I did make a video on that not long ago, in fact, so if you guys want to see that insane loadout, then go and check that one out there in the corner. They also completely overhauled the tank movement as well, and they made sweeping changes to loadouts across the board. And one key issue that Eddie actually raised in the podcast is that he acknowledged that the vehicle spawn system in 2042, where you have what are essentially vehicle tokens and then you choose what vehicle you want, is inherently difficult for the team to balance. And he even referenced Zabod 911 from Battlefield 4 as a comparison. So in that map, you had a single scout helicopter, a tank, an IFV, an AA, and a transport heli, I believe. But those vehicles perfectly balance each other out. You know, the AA could take out the scout and the transport, the tank could take care of the IFV, and then the IFV and the tank would take care of the infantry. And every map was balanced in this way. Now, this is one of my biggest critiques of Battlefield 2042, so it's really nice to hear Eddie share a similar opinion. And it does make me wonder if the next game will see DICE return to the good old-fashioned way of balancing vehicles on a map-by-map basis. I think it's too long in the tooth for Battlefield 2042. It would just be too much work for the team to go back to that system for this game, but I really do hope they consider it for the next one. Now, they did discuss a little bit of what's to come in Update 6.2. That is the next update for Battlefield 2042, and according to DICE, it will be releasing in early December, so that could possibly mean next week if we're lucky. And since the patch notes usually drop on a Friday the weekend before, maybe we'll get our grubby little mitts on those soon enough and we can dive into all of the full changes. But for now, this is what they had to share. So first of all, they will be adding what they called a computed impact point to air vehicles. That will take a number of factors into account, like the vehicle's drag, velocity, angle of attack, etc., and it should give you an accurate prediction of where your rockets will land. So for those of you who don't know why this is a big deal, in previous Battlefield games, your munitions, so your rockets, bullets and whatnot, would originate from the center of your vehicle somewhere. So similarly to how when your soldier shoots a gun in Battlefield 2042, the bullet doesn't actually come out of your gun, they come out of your eyes, I believe, which is why you can get shot by somebody on a head glitch by just seeing their head. But for the vehicles in 2042, the rockets will actually originate from each pylon on the helicopter. You'll notice this especially if you're flying the attack helicopter. Hitting those rockets can be difficult because they alternate and come from different positions, and as you close the gap on your target, you have to tweak your aim with each and every rocket in order to hit that target. The same thing with the Nightbird's miniguns, right? In previous games, you would just have a single stream of bullets even though you technically had two guns come right from the center of your vehicle. Not so in 2042, and for anyone who's used the Nightbird miniguns up close, you will know that it certainly takes some practice. So hopefully this new impact point should make things a whole lot more readable and help you to understand what is actually going on and where your rockets are going. Then they are also going to add a new HUD element, finally, for the rotation of the gunner, presumably for both pilots and gunners, that will show you where your gunner is aiming, what he's looking at, what he's shooting, and for the gunner it should help you orient yourself with the forward direction of the helicopter and realize what target your pilot is pointing out to you without actually being on Discord with him. This is of course also in previous games like Battlefield 4, and it is high tide it was in this game as well, so really good to see that on the way. Now, as I said, there are far more changes in 6.2, but we're going to have to wait until we get our hands on the patch notes to find out what they are. But they did have a bit of a Q&A session where the community were able to get some of their burning questions answered about vehicles. So the first one was, why do we have weapons coming from Portal but not vehicles? So some of you may know a lot of the weapons in Battlefield 2042 at the moment were actually originally Portal weapons that were ported over to the main game and called Vault weapons. So why don't we see the same thing happening with the vehicles? So the answer they gave here is that firstly, they have discussed this internally and they think that vehicles like the Warthog, aka the A10, yes, do it dice, could really shine. However, the vehicle has to fulfill some sort of a role within the game, right? There's no point porting something over if another vehicle is already fulfilling that role. They don't just want to add a vehicle for the sake of it. Adding a new vehicle to the game can also change the vehicle infantry meta a lot, and the way that vehicles interact with each other as well, in ways that adding a new weapon just won't really have the same effect there. You know, if they add a new weapon, unless it's somehow super overpowered, it's really not going to make too many ripples. And it's also a lot more work than porting over a weapon, obviously. So basically, you know, never say never, but it doesn't sound like it's planned for, at least not just yet. Next question then. Why aren't jets as competitive against ground targets as in previous Battlefield titles? So they do feel that that is definitely an accurate statement, but it's by design. So they feel like there's a certain level of expectation set by previous games that jets should be this jack of all trades, destroying everything on the battlefield, as they put it. And I guess here they're referring to the attack jets of Battlefield 4, although obviously in that game, you know, you did have the stealth jet, which was a better sort of air superiority fighter to help balance that out. And I would even argue that it was actually the attack helicopter in BF4 that was truly the big daddy in terms of high kill games, at least. But yeah, basically they want 2042's jets to be primarily air-to-air fighters, and once you've done that and you've dealt with the enemy air targets, you can then support your team on the ground, but you won't be as effective as in previous titles, and the team are okay with that. And I have to say, hearing them say that, and also their comments about porting over the Warthog and how that could really change up the meta, leaves me quite doubtful on whether or not we'll actually see any new vehicles for Battlefield 2042 going forward, Season 7 or not at all. But, you know, you guys know me, I've still got my fingers crossed for those attack jets. Next question, how do you feel about the current state of the Nightbird, and are you making any further changes to it? So overall, they sounded happy with the position that the Nightbird is currently in. They may make some further tweaks to the handling, but other than that, they have nothing planned. Okay, next question. Are you planning any changes to the stealth helicopters? So same answer here, really. No changes are currently planned. They did acknowledge that the stealth helis are a little bit weaker compared to the Nightbird and the attack helicopter, but it's because the kit of the stealth helicopter is a little bit more noob friendly, really, right? You've got flares and stealth mode to work with, you've got decent mobility as well, and the cannons have that splash damage for infantry. So it's kind of like a good beginner experience when it comes to the helicopters, but it's all balanced by the fact that the Nightbird and the attack helicopter are capable of far more devastation in the right hands. So I would say that's definitely correct there. The Nightbird and the attack heli are really the more skillful vehicles. Next, are there any changes planned for Lis and her impact on vehicle gameplay. They think she's a little bit too air focused, so the next changes that we'll see to her will tend towards ground targets, and they're going to pull her slightly away from the air stuff, which should also open up that space for the other engineers. Obviously, I don't know exactly what changes they'll make here, but right now, I have to agree that Lis is just the best engineer in the game. It's really not even close. I don't really know why you would even pick Crawford or Boris over Lis. She's just such a great jack-of-all-trades specialist as an engineer. And the final question is, what is your current focus for any future changes for vehicles? So no specifics or timeline that's set in stone, but they did share what they talk regularly about these days. So thermals for tanks, removing delays on turret aiming for tanks as well. That one really shocked me. Maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but it sounds like they're talking about turret turn speed. I'm not sure what they mean by removing the delay here, but if the turret turn speed is made any snappier so we don't have to rely on the zoom view all the time, that'd be awesome. There's also broader things that they're discussing, like systemic damage, defensive mechanics, vehicle versus soldier, the balance of those interactions, you know, going both ways, both vehicle on soldier and soldier on vehicle. So those are all things that they are discussing, but they can't really commit to anything just yet. So yeah, I thought all of that stuff was pretty interesting. I know this has been a bit of a long video, guys, so thank you so much if you watched all the way to the end here. As always, guys, leave me those thoughts down below and leave your feedback as well. Let me know what you guys would like to see in terms of changes to the vehicles in Battlefield 2042. Hopefully, we will be getting the full patch notes for update 6.2 this Friday, so I'll be able to make a more extensive video, go over all of the small changes that will be coming with that update for you guys. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Special shout out to my members and Twitch subs for the additional support, and I'll see you guys in the next one.